Rounding out our panel today is everybody's favorite, Mario Pinardo, President of Achievement Dynamics Institute and President of Achievopedia.com. Over the last 27 years, Mario has delivered more than 2,000 seminars and workshops specializing in personal and team empowerment and increasing sales effectiveness. Mario is going to share his proven field-tested system that will teach each of us the art of multiplying referrals. Please join me in welcoming Mario Pinardo.
Look for my mic. Can you hear me? I'm wearing it, so I'm like, anyway, thank you again for inviting me back to be on the panel. I was trying to think, how do I start? Well, first of all, I want to thank the Chamber. I've had, don't tell my wife, but I've had a 27-year love affair with the Southern New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. And I wouldn't be near as successful as a company if it wasn't for the Chamber. In fact, in 1987, I gave a 2-hour seminar for 250 people from the Chamber at what was then the Cherry Hill Hilton, which is now the Crown Plaza. So it goes back that far. So I want to thank the Chamber for the success that they've allowed me for meeting all the people. Hundreds of clients, hundreds, have come from people I've met at the Chamber of Commerce where have introduced me through their connections and their referrals. So the Chamber works, and keep working the Chamber. My experience with networking starts back in 1977 when I became a licensed agent for New York Life. And it was the largest agency in Philadelphia. And they gave us zero training on prospecting and networking. All they would say is, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. So the first month I was on fire. I sold my twin brother, I sold my best friend, and my Uncle Nick. And then I was out of prospects. And so they kept saying, well, it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. So I spent my Saturday mornings opening up the white pages, just putting my finger on someone's name, and one after the other. You want to buy insurance? Click. You want to buy insurance? Click. And luckily I was used to rejection from my dating experience. So I just kept going and kept going, and that's how I built my career there. But I figured one of these days I'm going to figure out how to master this thing, because I like the sales, I like meeting people, but I hated making those phone calls. But you have to persevere, and you have to concentrate. And you know what I learned over the years is it's not a numbers game. That's part of it. It's a mental game. Prospecting and networking is a mental game. It's a mental game on your part as far as becoming mentally prepared to find opportunity, and also it's a mental game opening the minds of people that you meet so they are able to grasp what you do in a short period of time so they can give you more time to actually share what you do. You know, so by 1992, this was a 4-hour workshop. So now I boil it down to a 15-minute or less presentation. In fact, they say 10. Right? So I said, well, what are the 4 most important things to talk about? So if I'd like to draw your attention to the handout in your packet, the 4 cornerstones of networking. Now, first of all, I like to start with this. Professional selling is networking a product or service with people who can benefit from its use. And the key is, professional selling is networking. If you're an outside salesperson, you need to be networking for opportunity. You can be the best salesperson in the world as far as once you get in front of the prospect. But you'll go out of business if you have no one to tell your story to. So that's the key. If you're on an island, it's not how well you can cook the food. If you can't catch the food first, you'll starve. So you need to know how to, you have to master it. And you can't it says number 1, make the commitment to prospect effectively on a consistent basis. Now, commitment, people sometimes take that word too lightly. They make contributions to their goals, but they don't make commitments to their goals. Back in the 90s, we used to do a workshop regularly on the power of commitment. And an analogy I would give, I would ask the people at the workshop, who has a teenager? And I'd find some little lady that has a teenager, and I would say, are you committed to your son's well-being? Absolutely. And I say, okay, well, let's give it a scenario here. Hypothetically, you and your son are hiking through the pine barrens, and there's an accident. He hurts himself. You're 3 miles, 2 to 3 miles from the main road. You can't carry him back. You need to go get help. Are you committed to getting him the help that he needs? Absolutely. So what are you going to do? Well, I'll use my cell phone. Well, the battery's dead. Now what are you going to do? Well, I would start heading towards the road. Okay, and well, what if you get lost? Well, I would eventually find that road. Okay, I'd get back to the car. All right, so you got to the car. Now what are you going to do? I'm going to start my car. Well, somebody stole your car. Now what are you going to do? Well, I would flag down a car, and I would keep going until finally I would say, from 1 to 100. No, first I would ask, at what point do you say, ah, the heck with it? Never, never. I'm not going to say that, but I want to find my son the help that he needs. So from 1 to 100, what's your chances of bringing back the help that you need to your son? 100%. That's commitment. That's commitment. And so the question that follows is, what would you dare to do with your life if you knew you couldn't fail? Because the power of commitment puts things in motion. The power of commitment turns you into a problem solver. The power of commitment just takes you to the next step until you accomplish what it is that you need to accomplish to achieve your goal. But too many people make contributions to their goals and not commitments to their goals. And if you go to prospect, you're stepping out of your comfort zone, because the first thing that we're taught when we're kids is, don't talk to strangers. So that's the first mental game that you have to win, is that you need to be able to talk to strangers, and don't be embarrassed to ask for help. Because in prospecting, especially in the process of referrals, that I'll talk about in a few minutes, referrals isn't that asking for help. And many people are embarrassed to do that. And so you need to be able to be humble enough to ask for help, but to be confident enough to concentrate and keep concentrating and be consistent in your commitment to prospecting on a weekly basis. So it says here, don't wait until you are in desperate need for business leads. Dig the well before you thirst. Dig the well before you thirst. And our goal should be to at least have at least 10 to 15 Class A prospects in our pipeline at any given moment. If you have that, then you will be in the top 10% of sales in your field. There's no doubt about it. And that's the key. It's a high payoff activity. And I once heard an analogy. If you want to experience the difference visually between a contribution and a commitment, if you're eating bacon and eggs, keep in mind that the chicken made a contribution to that breakfast, but the pig made a commitment. So, step 2. Organize your opportunity. We have to organize ourselves. We have to think it through, walk it through. We have to what's called crystallize our thinking. Now, we hear that term a lot. You've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times. Crystallize your thinking. What does that mean? Well, it's the property that keeps you up. A thought that's in our mind, something we're thinking about. That thought is in a fog. That's fog. It's moisture. It's in our head. There's no shape to it. When we verbalize that thought, that's water. So that's like getting a glass of water and spilling it on the table. Everyone can see it, but eventually it drains off and it disappears. When we write down our thoughts, that's ice. And ice has 3 dimensions. And so we need to get our thoughts out of our head onto paper, because that's how the subconscious mind wraps around the image. Because it now sees a 3-dimensional image, because we can't write it until we can picture it. And when we picture it, it's the way the hard drive works in our head is that we've got to get the conscious mind to creatively write down the information, then the subconscious mind takes a picture of that and says, got it. So we have to crystallize our thinking, and we need to crystallize our thinking about all the areas of our life. And there's an old quote that says, too many people are wandering generalities, not meaningful specifics. So to get it to be a meaningful specific, you got to crystallize your thought. You know, and just an example of that, sometimes I would ask an audience, I would say, how many people have goals for this year? And of course, everyone would raise their hand. How many people have priorities in their life? And they would all raise their hand. How many people have values? And they would all raise their hand. How many people have strengths and weaknesses? And they all would raise their hand. And I would say, then super. You know, here we are, it's August of this year, and when you get up in the morning, you're working on your goals. So who can stand up right now and tell me the top 5 goals that you have for this year in their priority? What values do you have that motivate you to achieve that goal, those goals to that standard? What strengths do you have that you can capitalize on? And what weaknesses must you overcome if you're going to bring those goals into reality? But we'll keep it real simple. Just the top 5 single most important things in your life that you've been working on for the last 8 months and you need to achieve in the next 4. Go. No one can stand up and say that. But you know what? No one has those answers but us. But if I would have sent the questionnaire out 3 days earlier and said, when you come in this morning, have your top 5 goals listed in priority, and then your values that reflect those goals and your strengths and weaknesses, everyone would have said, I got my homework, here it is. So we all have the answers, but we have them unconsciously. When you write them down, you make them conscious. And when you make them conscious, you make them part of your perception in your life. And that perception turns into what's called perceptual set, which I'll get to in a minute. So the 4 steps to crystallizing your thinking as far as prospecting and networking is, number 1, list the entire scope of your product line. What are you selling? So many times people get into a comfort zone. They have 17 products they can sell, and they like 3. So they keep selling 3, and they leave 14 on the table. All right, so you have to list all the scope of your products and services. Number 2, list the benefits of your products and service. Because remember, professional selling is networking a product or service with people who can benefit from its use. So unless you know what your benefits are, how can you connect with the people that can use those benefits? So you have to list those benefits. And if you're in a sales team, do it with the whole team. This is worth a meeting. These 4 questions itself is worth a meeting. All right, so number 3, list the markets that can use these benefits. So once you see all these benefits, what kind of people, what kind of companies, what kind of situations would love to have these benefits? And list them all. List them all. Then, here's where you really expand your network. List all the possible connecting markets. Who else, in what industries, also connect with the same markets that I can work with to find these people? You know, if it's small business owners, then hook up with an accountant. You may have 150 as clients. Boom, suddenly you have an abundance of leads. You know, and it's not always the obvious. The obvious would be, if you sell real estate, then you want to hook up with a mortgage person, or vice versa. That's the obvious. Sometimes it's not the obvious. We have to think outside the box. At that seminar in 1987, I said, see who has a connecting market at the table. Here, there was a lady that did videography. There was a man who had a plastics manufacturing company. She didn't need plastic. He didn't need a video. When they spoke to each other, she realized, and he realized, that she was shooting videos for companies that were ordering thousands of plastic cases, and he was delivering plastic cases to companies that were shooting dozens of videos. It was a perfect connecting market. But what happens is, it's like when you go into a fast food joint, you look for the line. And sometimes you get at the end of the line, and there's an open register. So if you want to really master networking, find your open registers. Don't be the 15th person that week or that month to call the person and say, do you need any employment services? You know, find other people who can put you at the front of the line. Because you know what? Nobody else is thinking that way. They're still working a numbers game, and they're still following the comfort zones of everybody else that's in the field. And you're at the back of the line, and there's open registers all over the place. So you have to think outside the box. You got to be creative, and you got to concentrate. All right. So now the next is mental conditioning. This is called perceptual set. We have to appreciate the value that we have within our subconscious mind. Just for a moment, let me just put this into perspective. When we hear sound, how do we tell the direction of sound? And we know about sound waves, and well, and it's our eardrums, and there's vibration, and if a tree fell in the woods, nobody's ever hear it. Does it really sound? But the question is, how do we tell the direction of sound? Well, sound waves travel at 1,100 feet per second. It hits one eardrum at a different time than the other eardrum. That space between our eardrums is roughly the space of a business card. It's the distance of what it takes sound to travel from your right eardrum to the left eardrum. Our subconscious mind measures it, calculates it, and depending on what angle it is, it tells you where the sound's coming from. That's the computer that we have up here. That's where you have to tap into. So what happens is, we magnetize to ourselves the things we see for ourselves. So we need to make this list that we made in section 2, and we need to visualize it. It says, write it down, visualize it, affirm it, expect it. Bang, you set your computer. of your direct and indirect markets. Bang, you're ready. Because you have all these years of experience, you have hundreds of people that you know. There's an abundance out there. Expect it. When you walk into a room, that computer's going, there's the prospect, there's the prospect, there's the prospect, there's the prospect. Instead of, now the opposite of a perceptual set is called a paradoxical intention. And that's when you walk into a room and say, nobody's here today. Nobody important's here today. Oh, it's not very well attended. Because a perceptual set is where you attract the positive. A paradoxical intention is where you picture the negative. So it's a difference. A perceptual set would be a batter going up to the plate and saying, hit a home run. A paradoxical intention would be a batter saying, don't strike out. Don't strike out. Because we think in pictures. Whatever we say, we picture. And whatever we picture, our subconscious mind can't take a joke. And it's going to say, okay, I got it. So too many people focus on problems, not solutions. When you focus on solutions, you create opportunity. And this is, it's event plus perceptual plus perception equals reality. That not just works for networking, it works for all the areas of our life. And fourth, master and operate at least 3 new business pipelines. There's cross-selling. Answer that. Developing centers of influence. Networking events. Nest. That could be the chamber. It could be your referral group. There's so many different types of nests. Cold calls. There's techniques to cold calling that will almost guarantee you that you can talk to the right person. Public speaking. I've done that a few times. And then cultivate referrals. Cultivate referrals. And so now, you should give a minimum of 5 referral presentations a week using a referral presentation flyer. What you're doing is you're taking your information that you got from step 2 and you're making a flyer out of it so you can hand it to people, and now it's crystallized for other people to see it. So many times people will say, I'll say, give me your referral presentation. Well, after we close the deal, I throw out 3 business cards and I say, well, if you like the service I've given you, then here's 3 business cards and you can maybe give them to your friends. And that's a referral presentation. You have a flyer, it looks like something like this, but it says, it has your professional contact information, the purpose of your business and mission of your business. For instance, achievement dynamics. We help people reduce stress, increase productivity, ultimately improve the quality of their life. Have your mission statement on there. List the benefits to your clients and list the people and situations that need your help. But that's the most important. You know, if you're selling non-toxic cleaning products, you don't say, oh, do you know anyone that's looking to buy some non-toxic cleaning products? No. You know anyone that has small children that want to guarantee that they never die of accidental poisoning? Yeah, I can think of a few. Boom. You know? So you have to talk benefits, not features, and you have to say, in these situations, these are the people that would just love to talk to me and people I love to help. Because then you recruit the people and your network of friends and associates and colleagues that are saying, oh, I can help you, help them, and there's a segment of the population that love to help each other. I have to say, not everyone, but you got more than a 50-50 chance that people just enjoy helping the next person. And if you give them the tools with the flyer, and you got to make sure you give 5 presentations a week, it should be 10. But it should be at least an average of 1 a day, because that's how you'll develop a habit. And if you're not giving it, why? Is it because of procrastination? Is it because of fear of rejection? Is it because you're disorganized? Is it because of poor time management? You're not leaving enough time in a conversation? Find out why you're not doing it. Is it because of lack of commitment? There's got to be some reason why you're not giving 5, because we certainly talk to more than 5 people a week. We certainly have hundreds of people in our network. You should have that all ready to go. So, but again, it's all about concentration, and it's more than a numbers game, it's a mental game. You know? So, and you want to create perceptual set in your network, because you'll have pipelines coming in of new leads. And you know what? After that, it's all fun. You get to meet all the people that want to meet you. And sales is easy, but you have to master the networking process. Thank you.